The word on the street is that WDW Pro is a liar. Every day he lies about the fact that the Walt Disney Company is actually the most successful company in the entire world. There's no problems there. There's nothing that needs to be changed. And what's more, their parks are full of people. That's why they need all that capacity. Or maybe he's just right on the money. Let's talk about this with WDW Pro here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter, and today an interviewer. And on trial is one man, one Mr. WDW, last name Pro. Pro, you stand accused of lying about whether or not the Walt Disney Company has got a bunch of empty parks down there in Orlando.
That's
How
right.
do you plead?
I plead Mickey. I'll stand upon the mouse and say, folks, it's an empty house down there at Disney World, even if some YouTube channels are claiming otherwise. And what's got us interested to do this video, Jonas, is that some in the comments on both the Andrew Platt video and my video say, Pro, I was down at Disney World and it was crowded. So I know you're fibbing. And so we just thought that we would test the waters and see definitively if we can say, you know what? There's something going on. Or maybe, Jonas, when we finish this trial today, I will stand in a guilty verdict as having misled the public. I don't know which one you think I'll go with, Jonas. Which way do you think this sways today?
I don't mean to be cynical, but I think the public is going to believe what the public wants to believe. But if they have not made up their minds yet, we're here to present some information, or rather, you can maybe present some information. I'm going to press back on some of the claims that were made in your rebuttal video, which if you haven't checked that out, you probably should.
Jonas shall hold me to account. Ladies and gentlemen, we hold you to account only for clicking the like button. Jonas, permission to present the evidence.
Permission granted. Oh boy.
Well, look at that. Pro's bringing the receipts. All right, folks, this is August 2025. These are the crowded levels according to WDW Passport. I'm going to explain in just a second why it's way, way worse than this. These blue circles on the left side of each day in this calendar, if the crowd size is average, Jonas, as measured by this website, if the crowd size is average, it's a 5. Now, Jonas, you may notice something as you look through August 2025. 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Sounds like I'm some sort of digital voice.
Right.
We even got some 2s. Now, folks, listen. I don't know what you think empty is, but 3s and 2s, basically for an entire month, is pretty darn empty. And let me explain why this is actually far worse than it appears, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, take a look down here at Animal Kingdom with a 5, okay? Sometimes Animal Kingdom, and here on a Friday with a 5. Here on the 17th with a 5. Sometimes Animal Kingdom is propping up these scores, okay, because the 3 is the average of all 4 theme parks. Animal Kingdom, you notice, is getting 5s and 6s and 5s. The reason that is happening is if we read right here, crowds on a 1 to 10 scale during August 2025 at Walt Disney World are based on automatically monitored posted wait times. So the way they determine how crowded it is based on the wait times. Now, what has happened at Animal Kingdom starting in August? Well, they closed a lot of stuff. So Animal Kingdom currently has 6 total rides. And because of that, the wait times at Animal Kingdom are really long. And so I think, Jonas, that not only is that skewing this, because now you have a park that is basically empty, but because there's only 6 rides, the wait times are long, thus it gets a 5. And that then gives this a 3, when I think, honestly, these scores are probably inflated by an entire digit. Not only is that happening here, but then also, Jonas, I think it gives the illusion to those who are at the theme park that it's kind of crowded. I think they're probably walking around and they think, man, there's nobody here, but hey, Everest has a huge line, so it must be crowded despite what I see. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah. So you use this word empty. Now,
yes.
That's a controversial phrase. There's 2 possible definitions of empty. And I just have to say, if the parks are empty, obviously that means there's nobody there. So who is there to record the wait times, Pro?
Well,
I'm obviously taking this to the most extreme case. Let's say you're at the NBC Sports Bar and Grill over there at City Walk, not on Disney property, and someone says, "Is your drink empty?" Are you going to say, "No, there's not even a single drop of liquid in it"? No, you're going to ask for it, whether you would like a refill. And I would say in this case, Disney would like a refill.
Well, let me explain the empty thing, because August looks bad. Let's go to September. And remember that Animal Kingdom has 6 rides and Epcot has something like 9. Mm-hmm. So these parks are set up so that it looks like there's more people than there are. And yet still, if we look at September, level 2, a 1. Now, so on the 3rd, folks, you can disagree that it's empty, but they can't measure it any lower. That's it. That's as low as they can measure, okay? They actually hit the lowest possible flat out average for all the parks. But 2s, 1s, these are scales of 10. In the month of September, they hit average 1 single day. And how many days in September so far have they hit a 2, which is the second lowest score they can possibly get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in September, they have been as close as they can be. And on the 3rd of September, they actually hit the lowest they can possibly be. Now, I want to show this too. This is great because if we go all the way to the bottom and go to year by year September comparisons, okay? And September is not completely over, but we're close enough. Here's the deal. If we look at the years here by Magic Kingdom, everybody take a look at this. Magic Kingdom, the number of attractions essentially has not changed. So it's a pretty good way for us to actually measure this, since they're measuring wait times and the number of rides affects the wait times. 2025 right now, September, Magic Kingdom averaged a 2 out of 10. Now, I'm willing to say 2 out of 10 is empty.
Yeah.
Right? I will say a 1 out of 10 is like vacant. Like ghost town. So, how does that compare to the prior years? Well, obviously, it's lower. If we go to Epcot, 2025 is a 5. Now, what's happening there? Well, Epcot has very few attractions, and it's being driven by the festival. So Epcot actually is more crowded. Hollywood Studios, the average for September is a 2. That's much lower than the past. And Animal Kingdom, despite only having 6 attractions, is down at a 3.
Right.
So what is preventing this from being worse than it looks right now? Epcot. Epcot is not crowded because families are there, riding rides and having fun. Epcot is crowded because local Disney adults are getting drunk around the World Showcase Lagoon and eating food in the festival.
Right.
That's what's happening here, folks.
There's one thing they should probably add. That's the number of good to go days that the Disney company has now started to add for annual pass holders. If you're an annual pass holder, you don't even need a reservation. You could just go in the park. So there's another side to this.
Have I won yet, Jonas? Am I innocent now of the charges?
Here's the thing: is I have the blessing of already knowing. One, I know your case. I've also talked to Mr. Vashkai, who's he's an expert in a way that I could never be on these parks. So I don't know more questions to ask you on this, because I also know people who are in those parks every other day. And they also say, yes, sometimes it's crowded. Sometimes it's crowded. But they know that these parks are deader than they have ever been.
And here's, Jonas, what I think is happening. So people understand how is it we get comments that say, I was just at Disney and it's crowded.
Yeah.
You fib, bro, you fib. Here's what's happening. There are many people who they did not go to Disney back in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. They don't know what crowded really looks like. Crowded is shoulder to shoulder, lots of people there. And you could say, well, bro, they've reduced that and they've done that to get the wait times down. And actually the answer to that is no. They've achieved both. They have reduced the number of people in the parks by pricing them out. And even those who are on the shilly side of Disney will admit that. Not chilly, the shilly. Dang it, it's hot, Bob. But also, Jonas, they've inflated the wait times with lesser crowds there. And the way they've done that is with Lightning Lane Premier, right? So by charging people to ride rides like Cosmic Rewind and Slinky Dog and that kind of stuff, what it does is everybody thinks, oh my gosh, I've got to pay to ride that ride. So they pay, and then it has a long line all day long because they've kind of set up a pre-reserve system for those attractions. But the other attractions, they do tend to be at the walk-on level, even if the posted wait time might not be that way. So the situation Disney has is if they got rid of the Lightning Lane Premier Pass, they would probably cut in half the wait times for the rides. It is an engineered demand. It is limiting the supply. In my opinion, it's limiting the supply on purpose to drive people to spend more money that 20 years ago, this was never a problem. They've created a problem so that money will solve it. Right. Your money.
Honestly, that's where it is at this point. And we've had enough people, even people outside of that park place, that are in this industry that understand what's going on inside of these parks. Disney has raised the prices to the point where they can compensate for the loss of people. But they don't want you to feel like the parks are not crowded. This is the problem. It's a tense experience going to Disney. And we've covered this on this channel as well, that Disney is one of the most stressful places on the planet, according to a recent survey of TripAdvisor. This is the entire profit incentive here is for the parks to feel crowded, even when they're not. Go ahead, Pro.
Well, I was just going to say the other thing that Disney, we believe, does, but we can't prove this definitively. So Disney releases the occupancy rates for their hotels. And one of the things they have to do when they release those occupancy rates for the hotels, at least if they want to make shareholders happy, is they got to prove that, hey, people are actually staying in our hotels at a high rate. Like we've got a really high rate of occupancy versus vacancy. But the trick Disney pulls is they only score that based on hotel rooms that are made available for sale. So if Disney isn't reaching the occupancy levels that they want, one of the things that we believe might be happening, but we can't prove this, we're not going to try to prove it, but we believe this might be happening and may have really been happening years ago, hint, hint, wink, wink, is that they remove lots of rooms from the market. They just say, we're not going to sell these. This block is not going to be for sale. And then that way, they get to say, of the rooms that we sold a bunch of them, baby. We sold almost all of them. But we might not have had some of these for sale. And that's what's going on, I think.
From their 40 hotels. Yeah, that's an argument that would knock your stance socks off.
Yep. 30,000 rooms at Walt Disney World in hotel rooms only, not including DVC. That's a lot of hotel rooms.
And there's quite a bit of DVC inventory that they'll be adding on. I don't know what they're going to do with DVC.
Now, Jonas, let me quickly address, too. There's been an accusation that how is it possible that Disney has this low number of crowds, and yet the revenues are breaking records? And to that I say, Jonas, in some ways the revenues are breaking records, but not in every way. But one of the things to look at is what they're doing is they're separating more of your money from your wallet from you than ever before. So when you go through the turnstiles, the prices for food are up. The price, you didn't have to pay. 10 years ago, you didn't have to pay to ride rides. Like that was what you paid to get in the park, so thus you get the rides. Disney has managed to go back to having the e-ticket system. Isn't this so funny? Yeah. Basically, the Lightning Lane Premier Pass is the e-ticket, but they also charge you to get in there, and they charged you a lot to get in there. And once you're in there now, you want to ride an e-ticket ride? Okay. And some of you don't know what an e-ticket ride is. It refers all the way back to coupon books from Disneyland. But you want to ride one of our premier rides? Okay, you're going to pay more money for that. And they've stacked that. Even now, they're charging deluxe hotel guests who want to ride everything without waiting in line, like $400 per day per person. And some people are paying that. Is that good? Well, it is and it isn't. Is Disney breaking records in revenue despite having lower attendance? Yes. That's a positive, at least halfway, for Bob Iger. Like if you're not going to have record-breaking attendance, it's nice to have record-breaking revenues. However, that is a short-term solution to a very severe long-term problem. And that long-term problem actually grows as you go on, because what happens is if you tell people for $400, you get to skip a line, and then they go there and they find out there wasn't a line and they just paid on a lie, and maybe you got it posted at 30 minutes and they don't really realize because you've got those lines separated by walls so they can't see it, you might trick some people. But you might also not. It's hard to trick people when it's a level 2, right? And the people who have the money to spend $400 a day, they're also sometimes very proficient They're not dummies. They didn't get that money, just on a whim. Some of them inherited it, okay, but a lot of people earned that the hard way. And when you tell them for $400 you get to skip all the lines, and they get to the park and they say, there's not a line here, then what do? Well, you got the money from them. You got your record revenues. Huzzah, hooray. But then they go back and they say to people, this is a ripoff. I got ripped off. And that's not good long-term strategy, because people will go somewhere else. And I guess that's where I'll end this one, Jonas, just say there's a lot of bad going on in the House of Mouse, but maybe the worst of it is, to quote Alfred from Miracle on 34th Street, there's a lot of bad isms going around, but the worst is Disney-isms, where they're taking all of your money and celebrating the few, the fortunate, who give their fortunes away to Mickey Mouse.
Well said. With that, we want to throw this to the commenters down below. You get to decide whether or not Pro was telling the truth here, and whether or not the only reason that he's pointing this out is because the company is kind of woke or something, whatever the accusation is there. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit that like button. Hit the hype button that I still haven't found it. Maybe you can find it for me. Let me know in the comments if you do. And if you haven't done it yet, consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media account.